2.0. We will be moving to the second page, which is titled Overview, What is AIF 2.0? The Apprenticeship Innovation Fund model is something that we have done now. This will be the third cycle, and we utilize it to seed the implementation of new and promising ideas, adapt proven strategies at the system or service delivery level, and expanding the reach of apprenticeship programs in Maryland. For this purpose, we've allocated up to $1.75 million of our most recently awarded state apprenticeship expansion grant to create the Apprenticeship Innovation Fund 2.0. For those who are familiar with former versions, the AIF 2.0 is a larger award opportunity for entities interested in expanding the reach of registered apprenticeship in Maryland. What we intend to do is award up to 7 separate awards. That would be a total of up to $250,000 apiece. And some of the main ways that we are hoping that this would implement and work for others in apprenticeship is it would allow to the registration of a group joint or group non-joint registered apprenticeship. For those who may not know, a group apprenticeship program is a program that is sponsored by one entity and multiple employers sign on to and agree to participate within that program. Scale an existing registered apprenticeship program, register a new single business registered apprenticeship, or allow a local workforce development area to work with one or more existing registered apprenticeship programs to expand their number of registered apprentices. We'll now be moving to page 3, which says at the top, Review AIF 2.0 Eligibility. For the purposes of this solicitation, the following entities are considered to be eligible: for-profit private sector businesses, nonprofit organizations, labor organizations, industry associations, local and regional economic development entities, public sector organizations, local governments, registered apprenticeship sponsors, local areas, and institutions of secondary and post-secondary education. We'll be moving to page 4, which is titled, again, Review AIF 2.0 Eligibility. To be eligible for an AIF 2.0 award, an applicant is not required to provide a dollar-to-dollar matching of funds. However, we do encourage applicants to leverage additional resources for the expansion or creation of registered apprenticeship programming. Leverage resources may include braided, blended, or stacked funding from other public, private, or philanthropic sources. It is very important to note that applicants must have an effective and efficient financial management system that allows for the accurate tracking of award expenditures and obligations by funding source, fund type, cost classification, and budget line item. The entity for the eligible applicant must also have an experienced accounting and/or program staff familiar with federal grants management and reporting. Eligible entities must also have the financial solvency to allow for award payments on a reimbursement basis for actual costs incurred once deliverables begin to be met. The applicant must designate a full-time equivalent staff member as an apprenticeship coordinator who will be solely dedicated to the project. We'll now move to page 5. Page 5 is entitled Participant Outreach. I won't read all of this to you, but what we're looking at, we are actually looking at the targeted populations from the Maryland Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act state plan. We encourage applicants to focus on helping register individuals from these various populations. You will see some of the populations that are listed there on page number 5. Includes displaced home workers, previously incarcerated individuals facing barriers to employment, individuals who may experience or who are currently English language learners, individuals who are unemployed, including the long-term unemployed. And you'll see the remainder of that list. We will now move to page number 6. Page number 6 is entitled AIF 2.0 Allowable Costs. To receive funding, the costs must be reasonable, necessary, and directly related to the purpose and activities of the project. The following types of activities and items are considered examples of allowable costs. A, the convening of partners and sponsors for planning, developing curriculum, books and training materials, initial proficiency testing, project management, case management, staffing costs, funding costs associated with related instruction, and for our purposes, and we'll review this at the end, related instruction is the technical instruction that is one component of a registered apprenticeship program. Supportive services and activities related to creating a non-traditional registered apprenticeship program. For our purposes, when we say non-traditional, we refer to industries or occupations other than the building trades. Creating a pathway for adult learners, including English language learners, to registered apprenticeship. Creating registered apprenticeship programs that attract registered apprentices who fall in Maryland's WIOA target populations, as was mentioned on the prior page. Reactivating or modernizing a previously inactive registered apprenticeship program. Registering a group joint or group non-joint registered apprenticeship. Scaling an existing registered apprenticeship program. Registering a new single business registered apprenticeship, and finally allowing a local workforce area to work with one or more existing registered apprenticeship programs to expand their number of registered apprentices. We'll now move to page number 7. Please keep in mind the following requirements. Prohibited use of funds. AIF 2.0 funds are prohibited from directly paying participant wages. The AIF 2.0 is subject to 2 CFR Part 200, 683, and 2900, which are the uniform administrative requirements, cost principles, and audit requirements for federal awards. Food and drink costs are not allowable costs under this program. A comprehensive list of unallowable expenses can be found in the regulations cited on page number 7. Additionally, you'll see it says funding caps. Maryland Labor has established a maximum threshold for training costs for AIF 2.0 applicants of $250,000 per project. Projects must be completed by April 2022. To the extent allowed under the State Apprenticeship Expansion Grant, Maryland Labor may consider a training proposal that exceeds this cap if extenuating circumstances warrant. To be considered, applicants must submit an additional justification evidencing substantial wage growth and job creation as an outcome of participation in such a program. We will now move to page number 8. AIF 2.0 application details. Applying for the Apprenticeship Innovation 2.0 Fund. Applicant submission. To apply for AIF 2.0, the entity must first complete the application attachments provided in Exhibit D, Competitive Grant Proposal AIF 2.0. You would have seen this information along with the initial WIOA email blast that went out that had information announcing this. The policy associated with this is there. And later in the presentation, you will also find a web address for all of the information on our website associated with AIF 2.0. Eligible entities should submit completed applications electronically to the email address shown by there. Or mail, they can also be submitted to the address shown on the screen. Applications are due no later than June 15th, 2020 at 5 p.m. Eastern Time, as listed in the competitive grant proposal solicitation. Applicants' mailing proposal should allow sufficient mail delivery time to ensure timely receipt. Maryland Labor will not grant requests for extensions. Maryland Labor will not consider applications received after the due date. Application proposal narratives are limited to 20 pages. If application is sent by email, applicants should be aware that the submission inbox has a 20 megabyte limit. If you move to page number 9, applying for the AIF 2.0 continued. The competitive grant proposal scope of work. Applicants should read this section running from page 7 through 13 very carefully. so as to understand the basics of registered apprenticeship, as well as all requirements associated with apprenticeship and the AIF 2.0 grants. As per this scope of work, applicants must describe the process to be utilized for assessment of participant experience, skills, and individual employability development needs, and indicate the testing that will be delivered. Number 2, describe which award activity or activities will be implemented. Number 3, describe the process to be utilized for ensuring that data is collected and reported to the Division of Workforce Development and Adult Learning in a timely manner. 4, develop a business relationship with employers. 5, identify the target industry sector or sectors identified to work with your proposal. 6, create a sustainability plan for once awarded funds are exhausted or the project has ended. 7, include relevant letters of support and/or commitment. Please note these letters do not count against the proposal page count of 20 pages. And number 8 is very important to note. The applicant must provide a description of how it will meet the required outcome of registering a minimum of 100 new apprentices with the up to $250,000 for each of the 7 awards. Moving now to page number 10, AIF application details continued. The applicant must provide a description of how it will meet applicable outcomes relevant to the proposal. Maryland Labor funds this competitive grant proposal in an effort to reach the following outcomes where applicable. Number 1, new businesses engaged. Number 2, new non-traditional registered apprenticeships in the state. Number 3, new registered apprenticeship programs in the state. Number 4, existing registered apprenticeship programs expanded. Number 5, registered apprenticeship programs that engage traditionally underrepresented populations. Number 6, number of services provided to participants. Number 7, increase in registered apprentices. Number 8, increase in women who are registered apprentices. Number 9, increase in youth, and for our purposes that is defined as 16 to 24 who are registered apprentices. And lastly, number 10, number of connections to the Maryland Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act workforce system. Now moving to page number 11. AIF application details continued. The proposal must include the competitive grant proposal narrative, which is noted as attachment A. All sections of the CGP narrative form must be completed with as much detail as possible and must include all required partnership letters of commitment. As we noted before, proposal narratives must be limited to 20 pages. Applicants must include relevant letters of support and/or commitment, and again, those letters do not count against the 20-page limit. The applicant must submit a detailed line item budget for use using the forms provided and which are noted as attachment B for their project's period of performance. Also, applicants should include either a detailed cost analysis of each line item or a budget narrative that explains the costs reflected in each of those line items. Discuss here any items that may require explanation. The budget must reflect the cost per participant. Administration costs may not exceed 10% of program costs. Again, match is not required. However, proposals that include committed cash and in-kind match are preferred. Applicants are expected to leverage staff in the completion of this award. We'll now move to page number 12. AIF 2.0 application details continued. As we noted earlier, Maryland Labor will consider up to $250,000 per project to fund a maximum of 7 separate entities, up to the discretion of the department. Awards will be formally announced on June 29th, 2020. The period of performance for this grant will have a start date of June 30th, 2020, and an end date of April 30th, 2022. Entities awarded AIF 2.0 grants will receive award packets and details associated with data collection and monthly reporting, both of which are described in detail within the competitive grant proposal, specifically on page 13. Please familiarize yourself with these requirements prior to applying so as to confirm your capability to perform these functions. We'll be now moving to page 13. Before we move to questions, this is just a refresher of the 5 components of a registered apprenticeship program for those who may not be as familiar as others. The foundation stone of all registered apprenticeship is business involvement. Without employers, you do not have a registered apprenticeship program, because the employers are the entities that hire and pay the full-time W-2 paid apprentices. Second component is structured on-the-job training. In a time-based registered apprenticeship program, the definition of that is no less than 2,000 hours per calendar year of on-the-job learning. That is conducted with an experienced mentor/supervisor, again, for not less than 1 year. Apprenticeships can be, again, no less than 1 year. They can be as many as 5 years, depending upon the complexity of the particular occupation. The third component is related instruction. Apprenticeships combine that on-the-job learning with technical education that may come from a community college, a technical school, apprenticeship training school, may also come from an online site or at the job site specifically. For our purposes, for a time-based registered apprenticeship program, the minimum related instruction hours per calendar year is 144. Fourth component, rewards for skills gained. Apprentices increase wages. Apprentices will receive increases in wages as they gain higher skill levels as they move through the program. Last but not least, all apprenticeships end with a national occupational credential, traditionally referred to as a journey worker credential. Registered apprentices increases in wages, again, as they attain those higher skill levels. With this point, we have reached the conclusion of the formal presentation. At this point in time, we would be willing, if anyone wants to put questions. If you look, again, let me go back on the very last page of the presentation, you will see that's page 14. You will see AIF 2.0 website in the center of the screen, right above the large picture, and you will see the web address listed there. That is the web address where you will find all of the materials associated with the AIF 2.0 solicitation. The policy will be listed there. The competitive grant proposal will be available there, as well as all of the attachments associated with applying for this initiative. At this point in time, if anyone has specific questions, if you would like to put them in the chat box, we will respond to those. I'm going to start moving through the questions as I see those. The first question I received, are the funds only for expansion or new programs, or can they be applied to existing programs that we may be struggling to fund during the pandemic? At the moment, specifically, we are looking to expand. You either creating brand new programs or expanding new programs under this initiative. And these are the requirements that we have from our federal grant solicitation. The purpose of the grants is to create new apprenticeship capacity. Second question is, does staffing costs include apprentice stipends? As was noted within the presentation, one of the unallowable costs as per the U.S. Department of Labor, grant rewards cannot pay apprentice wages or support in that sense. They cannot pay wages to an apprentice. Another question we've had is, what is scaling an existing registered apprenticeship? When we refer to a scaling an existing registered apprenticeship, what we are specifically referring to is the notion of taking a program that exists to date and allowing it to grow and expand. That expansion most likely would consist of any one of a couple of components. Number one, adding additional businesses to that program, enabling that program to grow and have additional registered apprentices. And obviously, scaling a program would mean if you're able to make some sort of innovations to it or expansions to it that would allow for the additional registration of apprentices that might not have happened otherwise. Again, what is the format of the application? If you refer to the link noted on page number 14, you will see that provides the web address for this specific solicitation. If anyone has any specific question of that, what I will also do is I will do an additional reply all to the email that I sent you with the presentation that it contains simply that web address so you have it as a point of reference. I'm happy to do that. Is there an option for a downward adjusted award if we propose to serve less than 100 apprentices? Yes, that is possible. Just again, be mindful of what the cost per should be. We are looking again, ideally, the maximum award we would give is up to 250, but we would entertain giving somewhat smaller awards for somewhat fewer apprentices, but try and be sure to keep the proportion in balance as far as what your cost per would be and how many apprentices that would ultimately come out of it. The reason we specifically selected that threshold is because obviously as part of our grant, we have certain numbers of new registered apprentices that we are required to report upward as part of our grant performance awards. Another question, can you please clarify what qualifies as a connection to a Maryland WIOA workforce system? One example of a connection to the workforce system would be if a local workforce development area worked with a particular applicant in helping to recruit applicants to be apprentices for that program. That would certainly be one way. Another way would be if an applicant worked specifically with a workforce area to connect with businesses who would like to be involved in apprenticeship. And Gina, thank you so much for figuring out whatever I couldn't figure out, because now I see the last page of the presentation. Much appreciated. Are building trades excluded from this traditional program? They are not excluded. Again, if there is something that would specifically expand them beyond where they are, maybe it would be an existing construction apprenticeship program, adding an occupation that it has not had before, that could conceivably be considered eligible. With regards to the required one full dedicated to the project, does that staff member have to solely work on this grant, or can they more broadly work on apprenticeship in general with a focus on this project or grant? What we're saying is there has to be a specific person who is dedicated to be the project manager for this particular initiative, so that we know that there is an actual person connected who will be able to monitor the program on the applicant's end, and will also be able to provide the reporting and data collection that we need back. If it's someone who works broadly on apprenticeship, and this will be one percentage of their duties, that would be fine, provided there is a specific individual that would be tasked with managing this project. I think that's all we've had at the moment as far as questions. Are there any others that have not been raised at this point? Again, since I sent this presentation to you, if anyone has questions at any point in time after anything you read, please feel free just to reply back to me. Again, that would be the email I sent you about an hour ago that had the actual PowerPoint presentation with us. You are welcome at any point in time to pose a specific question you may have, and we will be certain to get back an answer to you in a timely fashion. Any other comments or in the chat box? If anyone wants to add them now, please feel free to do so. Seeing none at the moment, I just want to thank everyone for being on the call today. Again, if you have any additional feedback or questions, please feel free to let me know. And within the next 15 minutes or so, you will get a follow-up email from me, just as an additional backup point, that will have that web address that you see on your screen now copied into the email body, so that you'll have it as a point of reference so you can go to the application materials at your convenience. With that, we will end the meeting. I would just ask if the Department of Labor staff members would mind staying on, just so we can wrap things up. And Gina, since you were presenting, if you can stop the recording, that would be great. Never mind, I was able to stop recording.